guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, going to go over an email that was sent from a subscriber. This from a guy, he is in his late 40s, he's from Australia, and he shares his story from like 20 years ago when he was foolish enough to get involved with, and fall in love with, I might add, with a single MOM. And not just a single MOM, but also one that happens to have a lot of very strong F-ness qualities, oh joy, and also is a teacher. And let's just say it didn't end well. And I thought we'd go over here, guys, just to show you that the same crap that's going on today happened back then. Doesn't make a difference the time period, doesn't make a difference the location in the world. These type of things are still going on. And it's just, once again, another warning for the guys out there that if you want to have a serious girlfriend that leads to a marriage and kids and all that, because that's what you want, great, that's fine. But I would avoid a single MOM. Find a gal that doesn't have any kids, amongst many other things. And also, you're going to see this woman has some qualities with regards to certain behavior, if you will, that, yeah, she's a single MOM and can be associated with that, but could also happen to any gal, whether they had kids or not. And I'll be pointing those things out along the way. But before I do, real quick, I got a quick email from a guy. Thank you for my channel. I thought he should be heard. And this guy says here, hello SSM. My name is Patrick, 25 years old. I just want to say thank you, and you're doing a great overall job in the YouTube sphere, and to keep it up. I've been recently viewing your channel and videos about a month or so ago, and most of the stuff I've heard from here just makes me laugh at the absurdness of the situations most of us guys find ourselves in nowadays. Well, a lot of guys get in there, and it's unfortunate what happens, but a lot of guys put themselves in those situations, let's be honest here. And I wish we guys had had the people like you to tell us these horror stories. Namely, the one that will forever be burned in my brain is the one where the guy reverse baby traps his emotionally cheating wife with the stray condom he found in the trash and your accidental pun of Iceman. I fortunately have not had any horror stories to submit, yet. But thanks to my own upbringing, I'm vigilant to what can happen to men in the USA. I come from a religious family with my mother being a Lutheran and my father being a Roman Catholic. I was basically forced to mature far faster than most kids my age, which may result in actually being a dual blessing for that curse. Yeah, it just might be. One day you'll thank your parents. Allowing me to integrate with older crowds and learning early on that the Midwest dating and its drama in schools to be largely ignored. Thanks to that and my steadfastness to my religious upbringing, I've kept the V card by choice, still as I'm a product of my upbringing, even though my parents failed in that long ago. I never had prolonged problems like my peers, namely the ones you speak about, but I'm always eager to hear more of the horrors of dating to share with my friends so they too can keep their heads on a swivel. I can't underestimate this. Thanks. Keep it up the good work. Well, bro, thank you for following my channel. I'm glad it's helped you out. I'm glad you find it entertaining, and definitely share it with your friends. And the more I share these stories, guys, it helps guys out from making the mistakes. So that's why I do this. All right, on to the main story about the single MOM Aussie. This guy says, hi SSM. Good day, mate. I knew that was coming when I saw this dude was from Australia. I'm a fan of your channel from the land down under. I've been an avid watcher of your channel for the past 3 or so years, and have found your stories both educational and entertaining. I recommend your channel to all my friends. Thank you, bro. Guys, I really appreciate that you guys recommend me to your friends or occasionally your family. I really do appreciate that. A bit of a background on me. I lived in Sydney, Australia all my life, and lived near the coast where my main hobby back in my 20s was surfing, of which Sydney provides plenty of opportunities for great waves. I was also an avid guitar player and played in a few local bands. Back then I was probably what you would call relatively untogether. I always had a steady job. I'm an electrician, but spent too much time with other friends drinking in bars and seeing rock concerts where the only reward was a massive hangover the next day. Well, if you were doing all that but still had a steady job that you showed up every day to go and do work, and you're an electrician, which, newsflash, I'm sure you're aware is always going to be a demand for, then okay. You're in your 20s, you were doing all that. That's what a lot of 20-somethings do. You could have been a little more behaved in that department, but obviously you've gotten your shit together since. I was walking along the street one day when I ran into an old high school chum who I hadn't seen in about 9 years. We spent about half an hour talking, and before we parted ways, he invited me to a party at his house on a Saturday night. Getting there, I recognized a few familiar faces, but most of the people there I did not know. There was one lady there who immediately caught my eye, and the eye of quite a few others too. She was average height with a curvy figure, light brown hair, and an extremely attractive face. Easily a 9, but at least an 8. Okay, what could go wrong? I pulled my old school chum aside and asked him what he could tell me about her. He said her name was Diane, and he has known her for about 4 years. He said she was a really nice gal who was a single mom. Red flag. Now, do you think our guy goes running for the hills, or running for the waves, or running for the bars, or the pubs as they call them? Nope. That doesn't matter. She's hot. Even back in my relatively unschooled years, I wasn't really interested in a relationship with a single mom, but sleeping with her once or twice was certainly an option I entertained. Well, that's all fine and dandy, but the thing is, a lot of guys say that, and that whether it be a single MOM, I gotta spell it out, that's just how YouTube is, guys, or a girl that's kind of crazy, because you all know the crazy ones are crazy in bed, but and think that you can just move on. The problem is, once you get a sample of the hoo-ha, a lot of these guys can't leave. So I got my old school chum to introduce us, and we chatted for a while. She didn't seem like a very nice person, so I asked if she wanted to go out the following weekend, and she accepted. I just want to add as an aside here that without wanting to boast, I was always considered above average in the looks department and never had any trouble attracting female attention. Alright, let's not get ahead of yourself, Crocodile Dundee. We know you're a stud. You didn't mention wrestling alligators on the weekend after you done surfing. So anyway, we go out a few times and we get along great. She was easy to talk to with a great sense of humor, and we had a lot of things in common. She had a daughter aged 2 years old with her former boyfriend, never married, and her mom looked after her part-time while she worked part-time as a primary elementary school teacher. Uh-oh, teacher. I'm not saying all teachers are, but it's an interesting stereotype here. So we got a single MOM and a teacher. When I asked her why they split up, she said that he just needed to get his life together, and he had to do that without her being part of it. So, sounds to me like he was probably the fun guy, bad boy type. Never really grow up, and she realized she just can't raise her kid with someone like that. And oftentimes, when gals break up with guys like that, they do it because they have to, but they still carry a torch for them. And watch this. One thing I found odd is that when we went out, she always insisted on paying her half of any bill. She would never let me treat her, though I told her I did not mind. She said she has always been independent and wants to stay that way. Now, that's both, there's pros and cons to that. The pro is like, hey, okay, great, I saved some money, After all, if it's, the gals are strong and empowered, then they can help pay the bill. Because plenty of women will be more than happy to have guys pay for everything. The downside of that is that has feminist vibes. That could be a problem. I don't need a man to pay, because treating every once in a while, that's fine, but still. Needless to say, she certainly has a lot of feminist beliefs, but seemingly in a perfectly reasonable way that didn't trigger any alarm bells in me. The last thing I heard is that Australia is very, very much to the left. And lots and lots of effinism going on down there. That's what I've been told by you guys in the comment section. I'm sure you Aussies or anybody else that knows will agree with me. So, chime away, Australian bros. So after we'd been dating a few times, we finally hooked up, and then something unexpected happened that I had not foreseen. I fell for her. Smack! What'd I tell you? Guys think they can hook up with a girl and just move on, whether she's a single MOM or she's got some crazy in her, until they get a sample of it, and then next thing you know, they're falling in love. But you had to learn the hard way. My escape plans went out the window, and I wanted a relationship with her. Smack! At the back of my mind, I still had reservations about her being a single MOM, but my feelings, I really wanted to give it a try. So your reservations in the back of your mind really was your gut telling you, this is a problem. Beware. Danger. So I told her the way I felt and that I wanted to be exclusive, and she said she felt the same way. Smack! And at the very least, you should have let her be the one to bring up the relationship and pouring out the feelings, not the other way around, because instantly that makes the guy in the vulnerable position. Immediately she's thinking, I got this guy. He's pouring out his feelings. He's asking the relationship. Already she has the leverage in the relationship. And when women have the leverage in the relationship, usually it means bullshit's going to follow. Because in their opinion, the guy, he's more into her and he ain't going anywhere so easily. Now let's see if I'm right. So we became a couple. I got to know her daughter, Olivia, who was a sweet, unspoiled little kid, and Diane's parents seemed like very nice people. Though Diane confessed to me that her mother had expressed reservations to her about me thinking that I was just a layabout surfer dude. I had long hair back then, like Think Spicoli in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Well, I'm assuming you didn't talk like Spicoli at Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Well, I can't blame her mom and dad. I mean, it's their daughter, and that's their granddaughter, so they don't want some guy that could probably be a repeat of the former boyfriend. That's fair. The only possible fly in the ointment was, wait for it, her ex, Gary, who, when he came over for custody, he had the daughter every second weekend, seemed to regard me with a slight hostility, as if I had usurped his position. Well, there you go. Dealing with the ex. Now, whether she's a single mom or not, you're always going to potentially deal with an ex of a gal you're dating. It's potential. Doesn't make a difference, single or single MOM. But because this is his daughter, at least so he thinks, it takes things to a whole new level of potential BS that you're going to deal with. For about 2 years, everything was great. I grew to love Olivia, and we were talking about having a child of our own together. We still not lived in the same house, but we were talking about looking for a place together. Oh boy. You only do that if you're going to marry her, but then again, probably you were thinking that at that point. One day I went over to her place unannounced, and there was Gary asleep on the couch. Yeah, not cool. Remember, this is the guy that she basically, it wouldn't work out with or something like that. Like, obviously he was having a hard time getting his life together, and Gary's asleep on the couch? No. This is the time to drop boundaries, my man. I asked Diane what was going on, and she seemed hesitant to answer me. Oh, how interesting. When I asked her again, she confessed that Gary had come over drunk and crying that he still loved her and they should try again. Boundary time. No, Gary ain't coming over here again unless it's to pick up the girl or drop her off. And you're not going to be letting him sleep on the couch. And if he's drunk, then he can freaking sleep in his car. Well, that's a terrible idea because he was driving. Or he can call a cab or something and take his ass home. No. She told me, of course, that she told him that and she had moved on and it would never happen again. I told her that he comes over again drunk again to not let him in the house. She said she couldn't do that and he was just desperately lonely and sad and she felt compassion for him even though they were no longer together. Sure. How do you know they weren't hooking up? I mean, maybe they probably weren't. Somehow I had that feeling, but still, no, not cool. He was still the father of her daughter as well. I told her that was all more reason why she should not let him in the house, and we ended up having a big fight about it. Good for you for standing up for yourself, but then again, watch what happens, guys. Apparently, though I never knew, this was not the first time this had happened. Shocker. I left thinking that anything more I said would not help the situation. Smack! So in other words, you caved. You were afraid of making her mad. You were afraid that this could ruin your relationship. So you caved. And that's what happens to guys that are more into the relationship with the gal. And she no doubt knew this. So now you're going to have more problems with Gary. I truly loved Diane at this point, and for the sake of the relationship, I let matters be. Smack! You caved. Right there. And she knows it. You think she respected you for caving? Nope. Which in retrospect was a mistake. The Gary problem was not going to go away by itself. Of course not. Because it's going to continue on. She just learned that, okay, you'll be mad about it, but you're not going to stand firm, and so Gary's going to come back. About 3 months after this, I was over at Diane's place, and we were both in bed when there was a thunderous knocking on the front door. Gee, who could it be? It was around midnight. I went downstairs, opened the front door, and lo and behold, it was Gary again, drunk. Completely unacceptable. Close the door, call the freaking cops. Unacceptable. And why is he there? Because guess what? Well, aside from he's a drunk, and obviously Gary sounds like a lowlife, so maybe you can't blame her for breaking up with him. But still, here he is. And if you stood by if back then, months ago, if this guy stood his ground and said, look, then we're parting ways or something like that, unless you get this Gary guy under control and respect the boundaries, this may not have happened. When he saw me, he started yelling that I had ruined his life and taken everything he loved. Dude, you broke up before I'd be like, never argue with a drunk or a fool, but let's be honest here. He was dumped by this guy's girlfriend long before this dude was in the picture. So he's going to blame everything on him instead of taking accountability. I told him to shut his fucking mouth and to get the fuck out of here. He then put his hand on my chest and drew back his fist as he was to hit me. Guys, I encourage avoiding fist fights and altercations as much as possible. Not going out looking for fights and everything. But if somebody ever puts their hands on you, it is on. I can't stress that enough. But in other words, don't go looking for fights. You don't need a police record, or you could lose a tooth or something like that. Really. I should have done it because in his condition, he wouldn't have connected anyway, but I right hooked him in the face and he went down like a pile of shit. Bro, it was self-defense. And I want to hear he probably wouldn't have hit you anyway. It would have been one of those sloppy punches that drunks do, and they couldn't hit anything, but it doesn't matter. He put his hands on you. You felt unsafe. He's at the door drunk. I got no problem doing what you did. The problem is, if you live in an area where the police are going to react in a certain way, it could be an issue. I immediately regretted it, and then Diane came up behind me and started berating me for hitting him. There you go. This guy shows up, you're trying to build a life together, and bang on the door at midnight, puts his hand on you, makes a move like he's going to punch you. You have reasonable reason to defend yourself, knocked him on his ass, and you're the bad guy here? Sounds like she's carrying more of a torch than you think. I got to wonder here at this point if maybe she's been leading him on all along. Maybe she has been secretly sleeping with him. You never know. I initially had the vibe when I first read this. I read this over a very tired coffee this morning. That, well, maybe she's not sleeping with him, but who knows? But regardless, yelling at you, this is what happens when the woman thinks she has the power in the relation, and clearly she has up until this point. Yes, I'm talking a lot. It's the coffee, but I gotta use these stories to teach. Then, to add to the drama, a police car pulls up. Oh joy. One of the neighbors, after hearing all the commotion, must have called the cops. The cops came over and asked what was going on. I told them everything right from the start, and they told me to accompany them to the station. I thought for sure I was going to be charged. Well, the problem is you have no witnesses, I'm assuming, for self-defense. You know, the neighbor could have called the cops, but the neighbor just probably heard yelling, and saw a punch, but didn't see how he put his hands on you. They called back at the station for another van to take Gary's inert body away, and I got in the police car. Back at the station, I repeated everything again and told them that unless other parties wish to come forward with complaints, there won't be any charges and to get out of here. Well, thank God for that. Relieved, I then made my mind up that this crap just wasn't worth it, and the next day I went around to Diane's place to tell her it was over. Thank God. But 2 years of his life he dedicated to her and the daughter. I mean, he wasn't going to get over her in that instant, and he obviously had an attachment to the daughter. But there you go. She didn't take the news very well and cried. Australian version of the Hoe Bag Handbook Chapter 2. It was gut-wrenching to do this, as it meant two people I love would be gone from my life, but the drama made it not worth it. After that day, I never saw either of them again. How interesting. You would think at least you would have heard from her at least one time or something, but never again? I gotta wonder if she got back with the father. I heard that she got married about 4 years after a breakup, and I don't know whether the whole Gary situation ever got resolved or not. Not my problem anymore. As for me, doing well now, married with 2 kids, and telling anyone who listened to never date a single MOM. The end. Well, good story, my man. You learned, but there was single MOM crap going on there, of course, but also the fact that, what her ex was doing, that could be with any gal. Let's be honest here. Just, she broke up with a guy. Doesn't make a difference. She had a kid, and he was attached and wouldn't leave her alone. And the problem is that she wouldn't she always enabled his behavior. She's letting him come to the house, sleep on the couch, show up at midnight. And when you try to establish boundaries, she gave all that pushback, you know? So that's a problem. I'm sure there are other red flags going on here from the obvious, but there. But your problem was you rushed you were the one that chased the relationship, not her. You're the one that poured out your feelings. Immediately she knew she had the power. Let's be honest, she had the power. And so when you had a genuine reason to have an issue with her and set up boundaries with that ex, you caved. I bet you if you would have walked away and she didn't hear from you a couple of weeks, she might have maybe handled things differently. But you didn't want to lose the relationship. You were afraid. You were fearful. And look what happened. You made the situation worse. But I'm not trying to be a dick. And I'm sure you know this, but I got to use these examples to help young bros out there that don't quite get it. But anyhow, bro, I'm glad you did what you did. I'm sure it wasn't easy, but you didn't need that drama in your life. Life is too short. So I'm glad things are going well for you. Now you're married and you're happy and you have kids. That's awesome. And now you can pass your wisdom to your children, whether they're men or women, that they don't make the same mistakes you made or anything else and things you learned in this channel. So I wish you all the best and I appreciate your email. All right, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. Be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. I'll catch you next time.